I don't want people to see me in a weakened state.
People have real problems and no one gives a shit.
I don't want people to see me as ungrateful or anything like that. I was nervous that that's what this makes me look like.
Cue the laugh.
Lots of people submitted for this video.
God, you're annoying.
Is that inappropriate?
You're kidding, right?
Dude, like, bro.
Weird.
It is a colossal disaster.
After weeks of going viral on TikTok and turning into meme material online, it looks like the Family Guy writers might be breaking their silence.
So I've got my Baymax blanket, which I use when I have anxiety.
According to sources close to the show, the team behind Family Guy, the same ones known for going straight for the jugular with pop culture, are not backing down from their latest Disney takedown, especially when it comes to the way they aimed their jokes right at the chaos surrounding Rachel Zegler's very public breakdown.
I can only make grilled cheese.
That sounds right.
Now let's be clear. There's no official statement. Family Guy doesn't do apologies or press tours, but people connected to the writer's room say the message is pretty clear. We said what everyone's been thinking.
Celebrities. They're just like us.
That quote, which has been passed around everywhere from Reddit to Hollywood gossip pages, reportedly captures exactly how the writers feel. The Snow White disaster was begging for a roast, and Rachel Zegler basically walked into it. And here's the kicker. They never even said her name. They didn't have to. Just one scene, Peter Griffin screaming, "What is everything?" as a Disney stock roller coaster crashes in the background, and suddenly Rachel wasn't just an actress. She became a symbol. A walking headline for everything that's wrong with corporate fairy tales.
Like, in the eyes of the law, you have to be nice to me, and I'm an adult.
That's the dumbest thing I ever heard.
See, for a company obsessed with messaging, Disney somehow forgot how to actually connect with real people. Sources say the Family Guy team didn't expect their joke to explode like this, but once it did, they leaned in hard. They're not backtracking, one insider said. They've been in the game too long. They know when they've hit a nerve. Online? The silence from the show only made things louder. No explanations, no interviews, just the episode and the fallout. Fans started pulling it apart, frame by frame, line by line, looking for every hidden meaning, even the ones that maybe weren't there. But behind the scenes, sources say the writers are watching it all unfold and smirking.
Feels like a zoo to get through baggage, but it's actually super empty here.
Because Family Guy didn't just toss out a random joke, they dropped a bomb. No name, no label, just a giant sarcastic middle finger to a film that tried too hard to be important and forgot how to be magical. And if what insiders are saying is true, they're just getting started.
Oh wow, my abs are popping off.
Somehow she has to not burst out laughing.
This whole thing kicked off with 5 words, delivered by a cartoon idiot. What is everything? Within a day, it wasn't just a punchline. It was a meme war. TikToks exploded, Reddit melted down, YouTubers started making mashups of Rachel's most hated Snow White interviews synced with Peter's freakout. Whether Family Guy meant it or not, they handed the internet a perfect caption for how everyone was feeling.
Last time I checked, I'm old as hell.
Let's rewind. Peter's watching TV. He says, "Wow, that girl is hot." His friend goes, "That's a boy." And it keeps happening, again and again, until Peter's totally panicked, confused, red in the face, and finally screams, "What is everything?"
You are given a golden goose opportunity, and that golden goose is belly up.
The timing? Brutal. Just days earlier, Rachel's interviews had gone viral again. She trashed the original Snow White, called the prince a stalker, said there'd be no love story.
It was a magical time, and I'm a Disney princess, and it was just very magical.
"I'm not a man," he says.
I am not asking. I am demanding.
On their own, Rachel's comments were already raising eyebrows. But paired with Family Guy's cartoon chaos, it hit different. Because what fans saw wasn't just Peter losing it, they saw themselves. The fairy tales they grew up with were turning into lectures. The characters? Unrecognizable. The stories? Sterile. And here comes a cartoon meltdown that hit the emotional truth harder than any serious op-ed ever could.
You know what I can't wait to quit? Social media. I'm like so ready to just throw my phone away. I don't know when it's gonna happen, but I know it's gonna happen at some point. And everyone's gonna get mad at me and they're gonna be like, "No, because of me." Or they'll be thrilled and be like,
Thank God Rachel's getting off social media.
The phrase, "What is everything?" blew up. People slapped it on t-shirts, used it in reaction videos. Even big political pages started editing it into their clips. It became the new way to say, "I'm done with this nonsense." And at the center of all that chaos stood Rachel Zegler.
Just let the bloat be bloat. Let her bloat.
Nobody
Who
wants
wants
that.
a movie about true love?
Insiders close to the show say the Family Guy team knew exactly what they were doing. They didn't name drop her because they didn't have to. The public connected the dots instantly. And once they did, the internet did what it does best, ran wild.
This clip is already 9 minutes long on my phone, and I bet she learned nothing.
Because when a cartoon says what a $250 million blockbuster couldn't, that's when you know something's broken. So what exactly did Family Guy unleash with that one joke? A full-on internet earthquake. And the most brutal part? They never had to say Rachel Zegler's name. Not once. Because when the clues are that obvious, the internet finishes the sentence for you. That's the genius. And the cruelty. Take the Disneyland scene. Peter's stumbling through the park, looking totally lost, while a roller coaster labeled Disney stock crashes behind him. That's not a subtle jab, that's a diagnosis. Then we see Peter flipping through different characters and identities until he finally snaps with that now iconic meltdown. And the real villain in that moment? Not Rachel, not any one person, but a system. A system that traded storytelling for branding, swapped emotion for activism, and forgot who it was even trying to entertain. And in that twisted mess, the internet crowned Rachel Zegler the unspoken mascot. Not because she planned it, but because she became the loudest face in the middle of the storm. Insiders say Family Guy's silence isn't just smart, it's strategic. They've done this long enough to know when not saying something is way louder. No slander, no lawsuits, just enough breadcrumbs for fans to connect the dots. Because when the culture is already this charged up, all you need to do is nod. And that's exactly what happened. As soon as the episode aired, TikTok blew up with edits. Rachel's Snow White clips spliced between scenes of Peter screaming. Twitter went full detective mode. YouTube breakdowns didn't ask if she was the target, they assumed it. And in that flood of reactions, one thing became clear. Family Guy didn't have to aim directly. They just had to aim close enough. It was a masterclass in satire, brutal, sharp, and completely deniable. "It's calculated," one insider reportedly said. "They know when to say it, and when to let the internet say it for them." Because this wasn't just about a princess remake. This was about a pattern of frustration, of fans feeling ignored, of studios pushing agendas and calling it progress. So when Family Guy handed the culture a 5-word meltdown that said what millions were already feeling, the reaction wasn't mild. It was a freaking eruption. And then came South Park. If Family Guy tossed a grenade, South Park dropped a nuke. Before Peter Griffin even screamed, "What is everything?" Cartman and crew had already lit Disney on fire. That special, the one that joined the Pandaverse, it didn't play nice. It didn't leave things up for debate. It named names. It pointed fingers. It gave viewers a full-on roadmap of how Disney got here and who was driving. One of the key players? A character clearly modeled after Kathleen Kennedy. Yeah, the same exec who's been in charge of reboot after reboot after reboot. In the episode, she's handed a magical object called the Pander Stone. Its power? It lets her shove a diverse woman into every major franchise, no matter the story, no matter the fit. Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Marvel, and yes, even Snow White. No IP was safe. From there, Cartman spirals through a nightmare multiverse where every franchise is suddenly loaded with bland, buzzword-heavy characters and social commentary that feels more like homework than entertainment. And somewhere in all that chaos, the line that destroyed the internet. Kennedy's character raises her arms and yells, "Put a chick in it and make her gay!" That wasn't just a joke. That was a death blow. Overnight, it became the go-to phrase for everyone who was fed up. Movie critics, YouTubers, TikTok ranters. Suddenly, that one line summed up exactly why people felt Hollywood had stopped telling stories and started giving lectures. And whether intentional or not, the internet tied it right back to Rachel Zegler's Snow White. The remake with no prince, no romance, and an actress who called the original weird and the prince a stalker. Insiders say South Park knew exactly what they were doing. "They're not subtle," one source said. They fired first and hit hard. And the result? Devastating. The film's reputation was already rocky, but after Pandaverse aired, public opinion didn't just dip, it tanked. Even casual fans who weren't paying attention before suddenly had something to laugh at or get mad about. South Park didn't invent the outrage, but they bottled it, shook it, and let it explode. And that's what made Family Guy's follow-up so brutal. They didn't have to build the fire, it was already burning. They just threw in one more match. Before the roasts, before the memes, before the roller coaster crash. Rachel Zegler was supposed to be Disney's next big thing. A modern princess. A new kind of fairy tale icon. But now, with one box office flop and 2 savage animated takedowns behind her, things look very different. The early backlash to Rachel's interviews hit fast, calling the 1937 Snow White weird, labeling the prince a stalker, saying the remake wouldn't have a love story at all. Her fans thought she was being bold. But to the wider public, especially longtime Disney lovers, it felt like she wasn't just rewriting a story, she was mocking it. Then came the political stuff. TikTok turned into a war zone. People weren't just upset about the tone of the movie, they were furious that Rachel seemed more focused on preaching than entertaining. She even pulled in current events during interviews. And suddenly, it got hard to tell where the movie ended, and Rachel's personal messaging began. That's when the fans started leaving. Sources say the fallout behind the scenes was immediate. Events were canceled, interviews dropped, marketing was quietly refocused on Gal Gadot and Andrew Burnap, but even that didn't work. Because then came the memes. Once South Park dropped Pandaverse, Rachel became the center of a storm she might not have asked for, but definitely helped fuel. And when Family Guy followed up, dragging Disney's whole brand into the mud and letting the audience fill in the blanks, it was game over. Rachel wasn't just controversial anymore, she was a punchline. Insiders say her team hoped it would blow over, that some time off social media, maybe a new project, could fix the narrative. But that plan's not working, because every week, another clip resurfaces, another meme trends, another parody lands, and each time Peter Griffin screams, "What is everything?" people go right back to those interviews. Fair or not, Rachel has become the face of the backlash, not because she was the worst part of the movie, but because she was the loudest. She became the symbol of a project that fans say talked down to them. And even now, as Disney tries to move on, sources say Rachel's still stuck in Snow White's shadow. You'd think Disney would hit pause, reevaluate, learn from the chaos. But no. Insiders now say the studio is lining up their next massive remake, a live-action Tangled. And guess who's allegedly attached? Rachel Zegler. Yep, same formula, same face, same risk. Let that sink in. After burning almost $200 million on Snow White, Disney's reportedly about to drop $500 million on Tangled. And within hours of the casting rumor, hashtags like #HadNotMyRapunzel started trending. TikToks went viral. Comment sections exploded with jokes like, "She's gonna cut her hair out of spite," and "From fairy tale to press conference." Harsh? Definitely. But it proves one thing: the audience hasn't forgotten. Internally, some Disney execs are reportedly panicking. Sources say early meetings have already included backup casting options in case the fire gets too hot. Others are betting people will forget once the trailer drops. But that's the same logic they used for Snow White. And we all saw how that ended. The truth? This backlash isn't really about Rachel's talent. It's about trust. Fans feel like they were baited and switched, told they were getting a reimagined classic. But what they got was a corporate TED Talk in costume. They expected wonder. They got a lecture. And now that Disney's trying to recycle the same formula for Tangled, that trust is gone. Even Disney insiders are worried this one could be the final straw. Because unlike Snow White, Tangled is a recent fan favorite, a modern classic with a loyal base. If that gets messed up too, the damage could be permanent. And audiences aren't walking in blind this time. They've seen how this movie ends.